Hi, welcome back. So this is probably the first of a series of about 6 videos. You will have hopefully seen the kind of introduction to who I am and what I do. Um, by the end of the 6 videos, you will have had so much information that you will know what anxiety is. You will know the effects that it physically has on your body, and you'll be aware of those changes. You will hopefully, by the end of the 6 videos, you will be able to discuss your worries and find ways to cope with your worries. You will also be able to talk about what makes you worried, what makes you anxious, what makes you afraid, so that you're better able to communicate your needs and get the help that you desire. Um, you will also have learnt about being able to connect your thoughts with how you're feeling, and by identifying the thoughts, you will be able to decide which ones are not creating harmony and not creating positivity, and therefore you will also be taught what you can do to remove those thoughts and replace them with something that's going to be much more productive for you. And you will hopefully be happier and healthier, and you will know what you can do in order to maintain those feelings and being able to be a much more positive person. Okay. Now, in a previous video, I have discussed the amygdala and the parts of the brain, but it is worth going over again here. And I'm just trying to find my little friend here, because he's very useful in being able to discuss. So here we go. Sorry to be distracted. I found him. This is my worry monster. It's the amygdala, and I want to just show you the way, very basically, the way the brain develops. So when you are a tiny little bean shape growing in your mummy's tummy, you first develop what is known as like the reptilian brain, the monkey brain, the primitive brain. And I don't know if everyone else has got this, but on my palm I have like a triangle. So it's kind of like a warning triangle. And that's pretty much what the reptilian brain is. It's designed to be totally responsible for your ability to be safe. So it's making sure that you get the right food, the right shelter, the right kind of care. So it's your survival, okay, the survival part of your brain. The next part of the brain to develop, these lovely squashy bits here, is the limbic part. And the limbic part of the brain is basically it's part of your automotive system. So it's pulse, blood pressure, all the things that happen in your body without you actually thinking, but it's your emotions. So your emotions and your survival are very, very, very closely linked. And they're ruled by this little chappy here, your worry monster, okay? So the worry monster sort of sits over all of this, and just, when it's not activated and it's asleep, you're in control and everything is fine, okay? We'll go on to what happens when he wakes up. Then we develop the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that is geared to your language, your communication skills, your problem-solving skills. It's your ability to learn and develop new skills. And so these are the kind of like the main parts that we're going to be interested in. Science obviously has 3 slightly different main parts of the brain, like the cerebellum and the something else. But yeah, we're going to concentrate mostly on this, because we can have like a conscious thought, and the thought crosses over to hypothalamus. But if that thought is not in line with kind of more of the autonomative thoughts that we have, then it activates the amygdala. So basically, your amygdala is in control of your fight, flight, freeze, flop responses. And if it thinks that you are in any way at risk, then it wakes up. And boom, when the amygdala wakes up, this prefrontal part of your brain is completely detached. not literally detach, but it's like unplugging a computer game from its power source. You cannot access that game, and when the amygdala is activated, you cannot access your problem solving, your communication skills. So when you're in a heightened form of stress, anxiety, fear, anger, then you will not really be able to communicate that to people as effectively, because the amygdala has taken control. Okay, and it's really important that we recognize that and give ourselves the time to be able to regulate. So mums and dads, when your child is heightened and stressed and or angry, please give them time. They will not be able to communicate effectively to you, and they will feel frustrated about that, and that can lead to all sorts of things. So best rule of thumb is everybody have some time out to calm down so that you can regulate. And then when you regulate and you send the amygdala to sleep, then you're able to get all of this prefrontal cortex back online, and that gives you the ability to problem solve and the ability to be able to communicate better, which means all conflicts will be better resolved from that. So the amygdala is really, really important. And you know, years and years and years and thousands and thousands of years ago, the amygdala, you know, we were cavemen, we were being chased and hunted for food, or we were going to have to be physically strong and physically active to get our food. And so, of course, you know, the amygdala has no idea that has changed. But with all of the extra stuff that's going on in our brains, with all the kind of hypervigilance and social media and TVs and the whole school day being very, very regulated, and often out of school being very regulated with various clubs, we are overstimulated. And effectively what that means to the amygdala is that we are in danger. So our responses tend to be quite heightened. We tend to be in this state, heightened state, for much longer than we ever needed to be. Now, when we are in a fight, flight, freeze or flop mode, there are lots and lots and lots of physical reactions that go on in the body, and we'll talk about that in a later video. But when we're in that state, the idea is that it was supposed to be very short term. We would then use the muscle strength to run away or to attack, and then it would be over. And unfortunately, that's not happening. So chemical reactions in our body are changing as a result. We're getting much more cortisol, we're getting much more adrenaline, and it's not being used up, and that's going to create all sorts of gut issues and mental health issues as time goes on. So in the video that I did earlier, I showed you about the needs of anxiety. And so what I normally get children to do, and if you can get a little piece of paper, A4 piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, not your mum's lipstick, but something to draw with, and just draw around your hand. So I'm just doing that now while I speak to you. I'm just drawing around my hand, and then we're going to write the word need. So we're going to put in the and the and the and the d and the s. Okay, so we then have something like this, which is a hand, and it has the word needs. Okay, now, this is a really great way, and in addition to the planting positivity that I developed myself, there is a ELSA, which is a package online that do phenomenal work with children, and they have some incredible resources, and this was just so wonderfully useful that it's what I help to show the children. So you have the needs, okay? What you need to know is that anxiety is normal. Everybody has some form of anxiety at some time or other. Your grandparents, your cousins, your dogs, your cats. It's perfectly normal. The thing to know is that anxiety is an emotion. So anger, fear, stress, anxiety, happiness, sadness, disgust, they are all emotions. And like I said before, emotions come and emotions go. They do not stay forever. So when you are in an emotive state that you do not like, please remind yourself it isn't going to last. Okay? The other E stands for everyone, because everyone will experience extreme emotions at some time or other. Okay? And it's just some people are better able to regulate and to manage, but they will at some point have had to have learnt that. So at some point they would have been over emotional, and that's important for you to realize, because you're young and you're starting out in life, and even some adults haven't got a proper grip of all of this. Now the D, I'm just going to put a little thing in the D, and I'm just going to tell you the word not. Okay, so the D stands for dangerous, and what I want you to know is that it is not dangerous. Anxiety is not dangerous. Now, it is uncomfortable, it is unpleasant, and it will create feelings in your body that you do not like, but it is not life-threatening. And sometimes when we get really highly anxious, we have these physical responses, and we then become even more anxious because we think that it's going to be life-threatening. And I just want you to know that it isn't. And by knowing that, hopefully that will allow you some breathing time to be able to regulate. And what anxiety is S. It's a smoke alarm. And I'm just going to write those in. And this is what you can also do with your hand too. So we're going to write in. And if you don't know how to spell, it's really not important, because this is not a grammar lesson or an English lesson, but you could ask an adult to help you. You can ask an older sibling, a brother or sister to help you. Or you can just try to remember the words and somebody can write them in for you. But this is a really nice way of being able to just remember about anxiety. So there you go. Now, I'm doing this quite quickly, but when I work with children, when they're actually with me, then it's really great to colour in the hand and do all sorts of patterns and swirls around it, because colouring and being creative is a really, really lovely way to try to regulate how you're feeling as well. Now, when we know the different aspects, we know that there are all sorts of emotions that we can have. Now, often as children, we've only got a very small amount of emotions that we can identify. So we can probably identify happiness, we can probably identify sadness, but there are so many emotions out there that we can have. So we can be bored, we can be stressed, we can be nervous, we can be calm, we can have anger, we can have happiness, there can be fear or surprise, we can be worried, there can be sadness, there can be disgust, there can be frustration, we can be confused. There's all sorts of feelings that we can have, and all of those feelings will come and they will go. And if we remember that it is normal, it's an emotion, everyone has it from time to time, it is not dangerous, and it's a smoke alarm. And like I've said before, when that smoke alarm goes off in school in particular, you have to take very regulated action. So you can't just leap up and scream and run out the building. You have to get up, you have to very calmly walk and make your way out of the building. And when you are in a state of anxiety, that's what your body is telling you, that you need to take some action. Okay? Now, when we are worried, stressed, anxious and afraid, it has popped the amygdala. The amygdala has gone into fight flight mode, and it's really important that we get control back and we put the amygdala back to sleep. Because when we're in control, we can see clearly, we've got this wonderful thought processes, we can communicate, and we're calm. But when the amygdala is in control, when it thinks that we're in some sort of survival mode, then it's just chaos, and it's noise, and it's things that we can't piece together, and we can't focus, and we can't concentrate. So this is what it's like when the amygdala is in control. So we need to do things to help the amygdala to calm down. Now, this is just a jar of water with all sorts of glitter in, and just the shaking it and watching it calm down is something that I have found a lot of children really enjoy doing. So if you want to ask your main caregivers, your parents, for a jar, make sure the lid's a nice tight seal, but just some water and some glitter, and you might find this very therapeutic just to watch as it starts to calm down. And if you couple that with breathing, and breathing nice and slowly, so I have shown this before, but I'm going to show it again. It's a breathing, what I call a breathing ball. And basically, as you breathe in, you want to keep your shoulders down. You want to relax your rib cage and relax your abdominals. And as you breathe in, you're going to breathe in wide and full. So you're going to open up your tummy, and you're going to expand your tummy, and your tummy pushes out as you breathe in. And then as you exhale, you're going to sink that back down, and you're going to take your belly button back to your spine, and you're going to just bring that back. So breathing in, and breathing out. Now, another technique is that you can do what we call high five breathing. So if you don't have a breathing ball, it's not a problem. You've got a hand and you've got a finger. So you're going to breathe in as your finger goes up your thumb, and you're going to breathe out as your finger goes down your thumb. You're going to breathe in and out. You're going to breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. And in and out. Now, breathing slowly and breathing abdominally and breathing deeply, it sends a corresponding message to your brain. So when you're stressed, when you're worried, when you're anxious, you're breathing very fast, and you're breathing very shallow in just the upper part of your lungs. So you're not getting the right kind of oxygenated blood to your system. So breathing slowly helps to send the message to the brain that it's okay. You're okay. You've got this. So what happens is that when the brain gets the message that you're okay, then instead of kind of pumping out the cortisol and pumping out the adrenaline, it stops those from flooding your system, and it starts to produce the sort of the more happy hormones to make you feel calmer. So it's really important to use that breathing. Now, because a lot of us are not used to really good breathing, sometimes you might find if you do too much deep breathing, you might feel a little bit dizzy, you might feel a little bit faint. And that's just because the brain has got much more clean oxygen than it's been used to. In your lungs, there are thousands of capillaries, and those capillaries, if you opened all those capillaries out and you spread them out, an adult lung's capillaries would fill a football pitch. That is a lot of space. And what it means is that when those capillaries are all raveled up and they're in your lungs, that's a lot of little spaces to get some stale air. So deep breathing is a way of expanding those capillaries and letting that stale air exhale out, and then you're able to bring in much cleaner air. So Exhaling deeply is really, really good from a cleansing perspective, because the cleaner you are inside, then also the less stress you will feel, because there'll be less toxins for your body to deal with. So another thing that I find really, really therapeutic is to blow bubbles, because this is a good way of combining breathing and deep exhalations with something that's beautiful to watch. So you can blow bubbles if you're feeling stressed, worried, anxious, or afraid, because simply watching the bubbles and looking at the beautiful rainbow lights is a way of helping to soothe and to calm you. Now, there are all sorts of emotions, and some emotions that we have will lead us to feeling more anxious than not. But those emotions often come about because of what we are thinking. So it's really important that we start looking about what we're thinking, so that we can start to change the thinking. But I hope that this introduction to anxiety, worry, fear, and stress has given you some strategies to be able to cope a bit better. So remember, when our amygdala is in control, it's chaos, and when the amygdala is back to sleep because you're in control, then it is a lot calmer, a lot clearer, and you're able to think more clearly, and you're able to problem solve. So when you are in a situation when you're starting to feel that it's getting overwhelming, take that time to breathe. Remember your amygdala, and remember that it just wants to go back to sleep if you can let it go back to sleep. Okay? So thank you very much for watching, and next time we will look at the physical effects that anxiety has on our body. Thank you. Bye bye. Love and light.